Omnipotence is the greatest plot twist in anime history, and I don't think it's even close. If this twist had happened in Attack on Titan, people would still be making 30-minute video essays, dissecting every layer of it. If it had happened in Full Metal Alchemist, it would already be sitting comfortably on every greatest anime plot twist of all time list. If it happened in almost any series with universal critical goodwill, it would have been immortalized as a masterclass in long-form storytelling. Instead, it happened in Boruto. So rather than being judged on its own merits, Omnipotence got buried beneath years of pre-existing resentment toward the franchise. Before many people even asked whether the twist itself was good, they had already decided the series wasn't worth taking seriously. But once you strip away the baggage and look purely at what the story actually does, I genuinely believe Omnipotence is one of the greatest plot twists anime has ever produced. Not because it's shocking for the sake of being shocking, but because it fundamentally transforms everything that came before it while permanently changing everything that comes after. It's a real plot twist, not just a surprise. Most anime twists aren't really twists, they are surprises. A villain turns out to be someone else, a supposedly dead character comes back, someone reveals a hidden power they have secretly had all along. They are entertaining in the moment, but once the surprise wears off, the story usually continues on the same path it was already taking. Omnipotence doesn't work like that. It doesn't simply reveal new information, it changes the reality of the story itself. In a single chapter, Boruto stops being Naruto's son in the eyes of the entire world. Kawaki inherits a life that was never his, and every relationship we have spent years watching is rewritten with few exceptions. That's what separates a genuinely great twist from a temporary shock. A great twist doesn't just surprise the audience, it permanently changes the story's DNA. Once Omnipotence happens, there is no returning to the status quo because the status quo literally no longer exists. The foreshadowing was there the entire time. The most impressive part is that writer didn't pull this out of nowhere. Years before Omnipotence ever happened, Momoshiki looked Boruto in the eye and told him that those blue eyes would eventually take everything from him. That line became one of the biggest mysteries in the manga, and for years the fandom tried to predict what it meant. Most people assumed Boruto would lose Naruto and Hinata to death. Others thought Kawaki would slowly destroy his life through betrayal. Every theory had one thing in common. They assumed losing everything meant losing people physically. The story never actually said that. It simply allowed us to make that assumption. When Omnipotence finally arrived, the prophecy was fulfilled almost word for word, just not in the way anyone expected. Boruto didn't lose his parents because they died. He lost them because reality itself convinced them they had never been his parents in the first place. That's what makes this foreshadowing so satisfying. It isn't a cheap bait and switch where the author changes their mind halfway through the story. He loses everything without a single death. This is where Omnipotence completely separates itself from most shonen tragedies. Killing of a protagonist's loved ones is effective, but it's also one of the oldest storytelling tools in the genre. Death creates instant emotional weight because it is final. Omnipotence chooses something much crueler. Naruto is alive, Hinata is alive, everyone Boruto loves is still breathing, and yet he loses them anyway. Not because they are gone, but because they no longer recognize the bond they shared with him. If someone dies, eventually you can grieve them. Boruto doesn't even get that luxury. Every conversation becomes another reminder that the people who once loved him most now look at him as either a stranger or an enemy. He has all the pain of losing his family without any of the closure that usually comes with loss. And that's where the tragedy becomes even more poetic. Boruto began this story as the child who already had everything. He had loving parents, loyal friends, the admiration of his village, and a place in the world that was unquestionable. He was the exact opposite of Naruto, whose entire childhood was defined by loneliness and the desperate search for acceptance. Omnipotence flips that dynamic on its head. In a single moment, Boruto is forced to start over from absolute zero. Every bond he spent his life building has been erased. Every relationship that shaped him now belongs to someone else. And every ounce of trust he once had has to be earned all over again. He's now walking the same lonely road Naruto once walked, but with one devastating difference. Naruto never knew what it felt like to lose a family he already had. Boruto does. Naruto dreamed of the life Boruto was born into. Boruto remembers that life being stolen from him. That memory makes his loneliness fundamentally different because every smile, every hug, every happy moment with his family is now something only he remembers. He's not just rebuilding his life from scratch. He's rebuilding a life that was stolen while everyone else believes it never existed in the first place. That's a level of psychological cruelty that death simply can't replicate. The true horror is that it doesn't end. What makes this twist even more effective is that the story refuses to treat it like a temporary obstacle. Anime has conditioned us to expect these kinds of situations to be reversed. Memories come back, illusion breaks, curses are lifted. By the end of the arc, everything is more or less back to normal. Omnipotence rejects that expectation completely. The altered memories aren't a spell waiting to be undone next episode. They are the world's new reality, and every chapter reinforces just how impossible it is to fight against them. Logic doesn't matter, evidence doesn't matter. Even people who know something is wrong find themselves unable to reject the new reality because omnipotence operates on a level beyond reason itself. Boruto isn't trying to prove his innocence anymore. He's trying to survive in a world where the truth has literally lost its meaning. The ending this twist is building toward. The most heartbreaking part is that the story still hasn't reached the emotional payoff this twist is building toward. Imagine Naruto and Hinata finally escaping Daikokuten after everything that's happened. As readers, we would naturally expect one of the most emotional family reunions in modern shonen. But what if that reunion never belongs to Boruto? What if the first thing they do is run past him, throw their arms around Kawaki, and cry because they finally have their son back? He simply watches someone else receive the life that was stolen from him. That's infinitely more devastating than watching a character die, because death ends suffering. This doesn't. Why so many people underrate it? I honestly believe the biggest reason Omnipotence doesn't get the credit it deserves has very little to do with the twist itself. If you removed the Boruto logo and attached this exact storyline to almost any critically beloved anime, people would be praising its commitment to permanent consequences, its years of careful foreshadowing. Those are exactly the qualities critics usually celebrate. Instead, the conversation becomes another chapter in the endless debate over whether Boruto deserves to exist at all. It's unfortunate because it prevents people from judging the twist on its own merits. Whether you love or hate Boruto shouldn't change how you evaluate the writing. At its core, Omnipotence accomplishes something remarkably rare in mainstream shonen. It creates a tragedy where nobody important has to die. It fulfills years of foreshadowing in a way almost nobody predicted. It permanently rewrites the relationships that defined the series. And instead of giving its protagonist a battle he can win through strength, determination, or friendship, it traps him inside a reality where the truth itself has become his greatest enemy. You can criticize Boruto for whatever pathetic nonsensical reason you want, but it won't change the fact that Omnipotence is a carefully constructed, psychological, devastating turning point that fundamentally changes the meaning of the story. And I genuinely believe that years from now, once the baggage surrounding Boruto has faded, it will be recognized as one of the boldest plot twists modern shonen has ever attempted.